be discussing quantitative trading tools. Quick introduction. So my name is Marek Perez. I've been working with Benjamin for a while. This is kind of a follow-on presentation to one he gave earlier in last month, I think. I met Benjamin at work, and we started this. We started working almost 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and then we took a year off because we got really discouraged, and we got back on and been working a year ever since. And yeah, so I do a lot of the coding, Ben does a lot of the research, and we have our roles. So what is the goal of this presentation? So this is basically to answer the question a lot of people have is, where do I start? I also want to show how having a good tool like QuantConnect, but there are other tools out there, this is just the tool that we have been using, can help flatten the curve, the steep learning curve that is quantitative trading. Remember, you want to not reinvent the wheel. And the most important thing is to focus on your goal. For us, our goal was to be as profitable as soon as we can. So this is the basic QuantConnect framework. It can get more advanced than this or less advanced than this, depending on how you want to do it. But for the most part, this is just a standard structure. So we have our universe selection. This is where you pick your stocks. You're like, hey, I want Tesla, I want Apple, all these different things. And you want options, crypto. You can even, and you can add them to your universe, and you can even sort. So if you want to remove some of your own biases, you can automate this process versus doing it manually. And you could sort by things like market cap, PE ratio, price, and all these different fundamentals. And then from here, QuantConnect will then take those stocks that you picked and then start to give you data for them in the form of slices. And those then can be processed by your alpha model. So an alpha model is basically your secret sauce. It is your strategy. You can have one or many alpha models. And you can do things like moving average, technical analysis. You can even do astrology if you wanted to. The world's your limit. And then from there, once you plug it in your algorithm, does its fancy processing, and then it generates a signal in the form of an insight. And this gets passed to your portfolio manager. The portfolio manager, you could do a lot of your risk assessment. They do have separate tools for this, but for this example, I'm just going to say that you can handle your risk management in your portfolio manager. This is where you say, okay, I have my insight signal. You can weight it to be, it's a strong signal, weak signal, and do it accordingly to that. Or you could be like, okay, I'm weighted in a certain sector, like technical, or like in the tech sector or the health sector, and I don't want to put any more in there. So you can ignore that signal or not. So once you're like, okay, this is good, you can move it to your execution handler. This is where you can do different kinds of trades. So let's say I want a limit order, market order, stop limit order. This is what handled in your execution handler. And then from there, it goes to your brokerage. And they have tons of different brokers. They have IB, Binance, or even Tradier. And yeah, so from here, sorry, if I'm moving a bit fast, you feel free to stop me at any point or ask questions in between. And I want to show you this implementation in code. So this is QuantConnect, or what it looks like. Has nice dark modes, so that's always a plus. And this is your main. So you can make it very simple. You could do actually all of your coding right here in main and be fine. But I wanted to show kind of a mid-ground of some of the potentials of QuantConnect without going too in-depth. So here we have things like our start date and our end date, and then our set cash. Let's say I want to trade in a bear market and see how my strategy performs. Or I know 2008, let's see how it performed during that time. Will it have stopped me before I lost too much of my money? You could set this up. It's pretty dynamic in that way. And then you could set your portfolio. You say you're really balling, you have a ton of cash, or you're being a little stringent. Either way. Then you could pick your data. So they have tons of different options. So daily, hourly, minutely, secondly, they even go down to ticks. But then those can get really process intensive. So pick what works for you. And you can even do benchmarking. So for this just adds it'll show you the price of SPY as a function of time throughout your strategy. But you could do it more complicated and do whatever benchmarking you would like to do. And it even has tools like you're setting a brokerage model. So certain brokerages have different fee structures. So when you make a trade, it'll be like, $1.50 per option you buy. This will allow you to have more accurate backtesting by factoring in your brokerage model into your backtesting results. So you can know, hey, I'm making a lot of trades. I'm losing so much to just trades, the fees associated with trades. Um, and then this is, so next I'll talk about this. This is the securities. So this is, I didn't represent it in the thing, in the, on my original model, or photo I showed, sorry. But this is like, let's say I'll go to it real quick. Let's say I don't want to trade on margin. So I could go in here, set a setting and be like, no margin. Or let's say I have only a certain buying power. Like Robinhood, I know does that if you have below 25K in your account. And you could set that, be like, oh, I want a certain buying power model. You can set that here. So this is some of the more in-depth ways you can do it, but it's not required. They also have very like predetermined ones where it just defaults a bunch of values and you could go under the documentation to see that. Next, I'll show the universe. So this was the first step of our model. You can technically you could have multiple universes, but I've mostly dabbled in a single universe, and you could just switch between two. So let's say I want a really controlled backtest. I only want my manual universe. I could just uncomment this and comment out my next universe line, or I could go and have a fundamental universe, which is kind of an automatic universe. So here's an example of the code. This is the sorry. So this is my manual universe. I just have, the big six currently of our stock that make up most of our S&P 500 here, or the fundamentals. So for this, all I'm doing is taking the fundamental data and sorting it by market cap, and then I'm taking the top four of that. Oops, and that's what this does. So if you, let's say I'm like, okay, I want to know what this fundamental data object has, what things I can sort by. QuantConnect has really good documentation. So here is the fundamental data structure. So you can see it has dollar volume, price factor, split factor, even, and it goes as detailed as you want. Obviously, there's some limitations. You want something super obscure, but for the most part, it covers a lot of the bases.
I'll also add that the QuantConnect has like a course universe. It has like 30,000 equities, um, so it's quite a large fundamental universe that you can select from.
Yeah, thank you, Benjamin. And then, um, so yeah, so from there, you pick your universe, and then you could go to your alpha model. So this is MACD alpha model, um, and this code is actually taken directly from the code supplied by QuantConnect. So they have a series of supported models that they just give you. So no model is just for like very niche testing where you don't want any insights generated, but they have a constant model, uh, historical returns model, and a couple of different ones. And you can, it's not really a black box, as they allow you to go straight to their lean GitHub repository and you could pull the code straight from there. So it's pretty nice in that regard. So I'll give you a rig rundown because this is probably where primarily most of your coding will be in your alpha model. Um, and so you have your initialization, which you can have a ton of different global variables or member variables of your object that you want to use. And then this update is where all the slice data will come in. So this data member is like each, depending on your thing, it'll be each daily trade bar or quote bar, um, depending on what you subscribe to. And you can take that and then start parsing through it and access the various fields of it. So you can get price, um, I guess current value, or I guess security price, sorry. And then, yeah, a bunch of different metrics that you want to use throughout, use for doing your calculations. And there's more data in the documentation.
I would also add like that, the so MACD, right, moving average, convergence, divergence. Like this is your pretty standard alpha model. It'll tell you the slice data that Marek's talking about. The data comes usually as open, high, low, close at volume, and so basically it's a trade bar is what they call it. And then you basically manipulate that here in your alpha model, or in your update. But yeah.
And then there's a series of event triggers. So let's say for whatever reason, in your automatic universe, we have this right here. And it's just a very simple metric for saying, hey, I want to redo my universe once a month. If for whatever reason, just say it doesn't meet your criteria anymore, a stock gets removed from your universe, it will trigger an on securities change. And they have one of these for every single one of these in your execution, your portfolio, and your alphas to deal and handle with a universe being removed. So whether you're like, hey, I want to hold these positions once the universe is removed until my signal is generated, or I want to completely sell all um, stocks associated with that universe when I don't need it anymore, or that security, sorry, then you can handle it in this. So there's a couple other, and you'll see throughout this demonstration. So next we'll move on to the portfolio construction. So this is just a equal weight portfolio construction model. Again, I took this code straight from the Lean Cloud. Um, and it's just, this one deals with a various different, like you can determine your target percentage and calculate a bunch of different metrics that aren't here. The documentation will have more. So there's functions you can override, and it gets a little more complicated in the portfolio, but you also don't need to do it. If you really want to, you could just take it, remove the demo, and you're using one that's already constructed within QuantConnect. So now this is not using my universe. This is just using QuantConnect's built-in equal weighting portfolio construction model. You don't have to do any thinking about it. And again, for this, there's tons of different supported models. So you can have equal weighting, insight weighting, sector weighting model, and it'll just do a lot of this for you. And there's different parameters. So for sector weighting, oh, I guess this one only has rebalancing, but it'll tell you your arguments for whatever you want, and you can adjust it how you'd like. For instance, trying to find an example. Like here, so we can set our, if we want 3% percentage bias, or we want to bias towards long short strategies or long short signals, then we can set those different things here. And then they have little different settings. So in this case, this setting for our portfolio is just to manage, or this is actually technically a execution model um, setting, but what it'll allow you to do is, let's say I want to keep 5% of my portfolio as cash, just so I don't get margin called or anything like that, or for a rainy day, like really need a last minute trade. You can set various settings like this one to keep that in place. And they have these all over, and you'll find it as you come and need it. Like you'll be reading documentation. And then here is the immediate execution model. So it just takes whatever signals that the portfolio goes and immediately buys them as a market order. So we'll move on to some of our other signals. So this is an on order event. So if, let's say, something happens, in this case, we're just, whenever an order happens, we will log that to the console. And then there's even interfaces with your brokerage API. So if you, let's say your brokerage has a message, it's like, oh, we couldn't execute this for whatever reason. Let's say you're trading GME, or yeah, you're trading GameStop, and they froze the trades for that. This will tell you like, hey, no more trades are available for this. And so yeah, it just handles various signals for you. There's also things like I could go on and on. Like here is the live trading node. So if you pay for the live trading node, a lot of things aren't free, which we'll get to that. You can set up a live trading, and it'll you run your tests, and you could view all your data here. They also have, so I can't cover it all here, but luckily QuantConnect provides a bunch of different boot camps that are available for you to just go and use and figure out how to use their platform. So we'll go back to our presentation. What are our pros and cons? So our pros of using something like QuantConnect, this is specific to QuantConnect, but it probably is the same for a lot of things. It's well established, so you're not building a SQL database and managing whole messes of data and making sure it's all clean. And they have like support tickets, and there's tons of users that have used this, and they've probably found most issues that you'll ever come across. There are free versions available. They have a large survivorship bias free data set, tons of documentation. There's community AI support where they have this Ask Mia AI bot, and then they have professional support, but that depends on the package you buy. So if you're, I think it's like the second tier, you get professional, where you can submit support tickets, and they'll look at your code and diagnose things for you. And it's open source and scalable. Cons: it costs money. There's a lot of little things that like can start to add up with this platform. So there's such as using the API, there's various different node resources, and then even paper trading is kind of blocked behind a little bit of a paywall. So keep that in mind. There are resource limitations. We've run into those with some of the more intensive machine learning algorithms. So keep that in mind. There are ways around it which we're working towards, but it is something to keep in the back of your mind. There's an overwhelming amount of information sometimes where and it's sometimes a black box. Like there's a lot of functions that get sent and then processed in the background, and unless you trace that down, it is kind of difficult to know exactly what's happening sometimes versus something that you write yourself. You know exactly what's going on every step of the way. There's a steep learning curve, and you have to be connected to the internet to use it, which to connect it because it's all cloud based. Like their data is all stored in the cloud, so to access it, it pulls from there, and that can also happen with infrequent outages. Sometimes we've run into it where we just can't code for that day because there's some sort of outage. It doesn't happen all the time, but it has happened before, so it's something to keep in mind. I talked really fast, but are there any questions?
So this is open source, right? I think I saw on one of the slides.
Yep.
So if you wanted to make a contribution to maybe add a broker after you've like tested the APIs, is that something you could do?
So there are ways, like let's say you wanted to live trade, you can add. Let's say for whatever reason you wanted to make your own data, you could.
About everything, and I didn't know if it had the crypto universe either. I didn't. I thought it may have just had
Oh yeah, they have
traditional instruments.
Yeah, quite a few. And if you're doing like we've been kind of dabbling in their like lean framework where you just code on yourself and you can import your own data sets if you really want to. Like let's say you had a web scraper and you're like, I want to trade using my own resources. It is ways to get around that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have something I'm working on now is like a pet project, but maybe I
Yeah.
could use that data.
Yeah, so they also allow you to trade crypto, futures, forex. It's all listed right there, actually. Equity, forex, crypto, futures, options if you use IB. So lots of possibilities. I think you can, yeah, and you can definitely connect to your own brokerage if you wanted to, if you create the API. I think the only, I don't know. I don't know if you could create your own. I don't know if if they let you go in and out, Eric.
There's a way where you can when you access data. So it's like instead of using one of their
Right, that's
set
true.
brokerages, but for the live node, I haven't played around with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, some things are annoying. Like for instance, you notice options aren't here. You have to use this and IB or use interactive brokerage or Tradier or something, and that could get annoying. So we run into that issue where we want to
Also,
live
they
trade.
also for some of the data sets, like they don't have option like the Greeks. If you wanted to
Yes.
do like back testing, they don't have like the Greeks available. I guess I should say not available yet. They're I guess planning on doing it, but it's not
Yeah.
available.
So there is active development. You can look at their GitHub pools, and you could see that there's work being done, but sometimes it's a little slow. And then you were talking about visualization tools. I forgot to demonstrate this. So there are really good visualizations. So this is a backtest I run using the code that's currently there. It looks really good, but it kind of ran through 2020 where everything was really good. So yeah, this is a very nice visualization. You could look through all your data. You can see what relative, like how much you were buying. Like I think,
It also
yeah,
tells you possible overfitting. That's really cool.
yeah, and you could create your own plots and they'll add to this. And you give things like, so this shows you all your statistics, your Sharpe ratio, or anything you are interested. Most of the things you're interested, and then you have your orders, and you could click here, and it'll show you. See, I'm currently using this on a free account. Uh, this is one of those like trading things, so that is a big con. But it one step above, you go show you where your trades are relative to a time, and it'll show you when you bought or when you sold. Um, but yes, some resources are blocked by money. But this is all with the free one. I wanted to show the free one just because it's probably what a lot of you will be starting with, and this is all done with just the free stuff. Yeah, I think I answered your question. And so sorry. This is what usually will show the signals. It shows like a nice little plot in your screen. Yeah. This is not what a lot of our backtests will look like. So
also, I would say that
red.
they separate like open source, like some what they basically make open source is their lean engine. So anything that they use to trade, but what they make closed source is basically anything that they use to create like the cloud, like their IDE, their integrations. So I guess that's kind of like, so basically they closed source anything that you could use to probably make a QuantConnect them yourself, but they open source like all of the trading tools. That's just like one, I think, caveat that's kind of important. Hey, Marek, can I share my screen? Yes, I can. This was just another backtest that we ran, but you can see here, like, you can get, like, for instance, all your trade signals. Like, it'll tell you when it filled, when it sold, and so on and so forth. This is basically the higher version. I think we pay like $50 a month for all the stuff we use. But you can create your own plots. So for instance, you can create plots here and then have access to that.
Yeah, I think that's good. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. Me or Benjamin can get those answered. And we'll be just lurking around the Quantopian forum. Oh, I think, Quantopian is actually sponsored by QuantConnect. We used this before we even joined this platform, but so they have affiliate links. So if you want to support Quantopian, you can click their affiliate link and create an account.
Yeah, I think the affiliate link is in like Foss's newsletter if you want to support what Quantopian's doing, but it's there if you want to link to it. We don't get any cut from that. We're just happen to be really we just happen to use it. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. Yeah. I'll give you guys the rest of your time. Thank you for coming to the presentation.